This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. The first FEMA modular homes are finally ready for the Maui fire survivors. And this sounds like a heartwarming tale. Of course, a lot of the sheeple will see pictures like what you see on your screen and feel love and warmth and say, this is great. The government is giving homes to these people who lost their homes in the fire. But what they don't realize, what they fail to realize, is that these people don't have homes and lost everything that they had because the government themselves burnt their homes to the ground. So it kind of takes out that whole warm and fuzzy feeling, right? It takes that warmth out of the whole story when you actually realize what's going on and what FEMA's purpose is. And I'm gonna show you the video clip that FEMA put up on their channel on their FEMA YouTube channel. Yes, there's a FEMA YouTube channel. Of course, there's a growing resentment towards FEMA right now because of everything that's been happening in North Carolina, everything that's been happening as a result of Helene, as a result of Milton. And people are starting to realize that FEMA is not your friend. How are they realizing that? Well, when civilians are going out of their way to spend the money that they have or the resources that they have, whether it's generators or bottles of water or blankets or anything they could possibly find in their home or buy in a store to bring to these people who have been victimized by a horrific quote-unquote natural disaster. When they show up at the scene to help out, FEMA's telling them to get lost. FEMA's saying, get out of here. FEMA's saying it's a danger zone. You're not allowed to be here, which started getting civilians suspicious, which is what they should be. Keep in mind as I play for you this clip that these are the victims in Maui. These are their new temporary homes that will soon become their permanent homes. Of course, they'll likely be evicted from here if they don't follow the rules because people don't seem to understand that there's a difference between owning a home and living on a FEMA property because it's like living in a prison. You have to follow rules, protocols, and most importantly, as it says in their guidelines, you have to follow the rules of the community, right? Do you see where this is headed? Because this is nothing more than a prison. It's a prison that doesn't look like one. And there's, of course, people out there who would say, well, then sign me up because I'd love to live in a place like that because all it really takes for the sheeple out there is to see these updated FEMA homes. I mean, we've seen them over the years, right? They look like little trailers. They all look the same. They look like giant storage containers out of Ready Player One. Well, thankfully, FEMA has decided to upgrade the homes a little bit and make them look more like homes so that the sheeple don't realize that they're actually prison camps. Got to watch the words we use on the internet these days. But all it takes, obviously, is for FEMA to use little manipulative tools like, hey, maybe instead of making all the houses look the same and maybe, people getting suspicious, let's slap some colorful paint on it. We'll make this house green and that house blue, and nobody will be able to tell the difference that they're living in a prison community, right? Hey, why don't you just slap a Hello Kitty sticker on the side so that sheeple willingly show up and sign up to live in these prison entrapments? Take a look at this, and of course, like I always mention, they use these marketing tactics like playing this piano music in the background, showing these people crying as they enter the homes. Everybody feels like this is a wonderful, wonderful story, but they don't realize that these people would never be going through what they're going through if the government didn't use a directed energy weapon on these people's homes in the first place. Take a look.
We're at Aloha, which is a site we've built with temporary housing to assist those that have been displaced by the fire in Lahaina. This site has 167 units and is comprised of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units that we will be housing individuals that were displaced by the fire for the next years to come until we could eventually get them into permanent housing. Today is the grand opening of this site, and we will be leasing in the first families here, and it's exciting because we'll be able to bring families in here that have been in our temporary housing program, and it provides a stable housing source to individuals impacted by the fires. It allows them to not only have that stability of housing, but it's close to Lahaina where they were. So from a community standpoint, it will allow the community that was displaced to come back together and have stable housing for years to come. Everything we do here in response to the fire is built on strong partnerships, whether it is amongst the federal agencies, for example, the Corps of Engineers, who's been instrumental in managing this project, or the different private contractors that are local here from Maui that have helped build this site. We work very closely with the state and the county in building this site out, and they've helped us significantly as we work together to provide the site. This investment here by the federal government in cooperation with the state, local government, and the contractors on the island starts to provide that stability to help survivors recover from this fire. And so this is kind of a beacon to help us to really start the long-term recovery and the rebuilding that's happening right around us. Everything in Hawaii is about ohana, and it's about family and community. And this is critical to the mayor's vision of allowing the community to come back together, to come back to an area that was destroyed by a devastating fire, but to come back in a way that is in a safe, secure environment that's going to provide them housing until we could ultimately rebuild Lahaina. And so this really helps bringing that community, that ohana, back together.
So it's incredible, right? I mean, that's propaganda 101, right? People playing the ukulele, they're going into the home, they're smiling, they're crying. You gotta love, like I said earlier, the fact that they're slapping on paint now on these FEMA facilities, because if you don't know, in the past, they'd all just be like these little white cells. They look like, right out of the movie Ready Player One, they were literally storage containers. So now they put a little peak on the top to make it look more like a home. And when people hear these stories, you know, they think to themselves, well, somebody owned a home and it burned, and look, the government's coming in and giving it to them. And again, like I've said a million times, the government's responsible for burning it to the ground in the first place. But this is what the plan is for everybody, because FEMA is building these homes, by the way, on your tax dollar. We're paying for all of these prisons that they're building. Our taxes are funding what FEMA's doing, just like all the land buyouts, which I'll get to in a minute, that our tax money is funding. So if you look at the FEMA housing rules and requirements, of course, you'll read some and you say, well, what's the big deal, right? Temporary housing agreement. It's like, you know, living in an apartment, right? Permission housing plan. But then you start reading between the fine lines, you know, start looking at it, you say to yourself, wait, community standards, occupants must follow the rules and expectations of the community. So what does that mean? Well, it can mean anything, right? It could mean if there's another outbreak, that if you're living in one of these homes because the government burned your home to the ground and suddenly they say everybody in this community has to have something inside their body. And you say, well, I don't want to put that in my body. They'll say, you're not living up to the rules and expectations of the community. You're going to be evicted and live out on the streets. You will no longer be allowed to live in your temporary prison cell that we've given to you. Conduct violations, right? Look at the conduct violations. Excessive noise, disturbing the peace, unleashed or unattended pets, damage beyond normal wear and tear, failure to meet with FEMA staff, right? So you hear the ones before that. I mean, this is how they're deceptive. They say, well, excessive noise. You'd say, well, that's fine. You know, if you live in an apartment or you live in a regular home, if your neighbor is overly loud at 2 a.m, well, that's, you know, you can call the police, right? Well, what about failure to meet with FEMA staff? You have to go and meet with the FEMA staff. They bury that right between criminal activity and disturbing the peace. So you got to go meet with the FEMA staff, right? Got to go meet with your controllers, the people who are going to rule over you on this property. And then you might say, well, it's no different than a landlord. Well, the difference actually lies in that community standard bullet point right there, where you have a FEMA staff that's in control. And when the FEMA staff, of course, tries to get nanotechnology inside of your body and you refuse to do it, they'll say you're not living up to the expectations of the community. And the other stuff on there, FEMA housing also has other requirements such as adhering to the rules, laws, and regulations of the site and jurisdiction, providing the right of entry permissions. Right of entry. Does that sound normal to you? I mean, if you live in an apartment, I believe that they're allowed to come and do an apartment check. They have to give you, you know, a heads up ahead of time. But these are people who these are people who were homeowners who didn't want to leave the island, who the government said, if you're not going to leave and let us buy you out, we're going to burn you out. Then we're going to move you somewhere you don't want to be. We're going to call it temporary housing. And then we're going to make you stay there permanently if we let you. And if you didn't see, this is one of the temporary housing communities. The other one is called Kalaiola. it's laughable because look at it. The first families moved into this interim housing in Lahaina, which is directly next to that other prison, that other FEMA prison. And look at these little cubicle things that they've got. Does this look like it's a little bit of a dystopian nightmare to you? How about the fact that they're all glass? How about the fact that you can look in and watch everybody like, you're at the zoo and see what everybody else is doing at all times? Sure, maybe you can put blinds up. I mean, I'm sure if you read the fine code that you get when you sign up to live here, it probably says that you can't put blinds up, that they need to be able to see what you're doing inside at all times. Kind of like the way prisoners live, right? Gotta love it. They have that little dystopian door. They have a door right there, like a regular door to a home, and then the entire thing is made up of glass. And if you don't understand what's happening here with FEMA, FEMA is building these prisons around areas where there's natural disasters. These natural disasters, of course, are not natural at all. They're caused using weather modification by your own government. So then FEMA comes in and pretends to be hero by saying, we'll give housing to the people who our government flooded out of these areas or burned out of these areas or tornadoed out of these areas all through weather modification. We'll pretend to be hero. Oh, and by the way, you're never going to go back to where you used to live because we're going to declare it a flood zone. And once we declare it a flood zone, we're going to buy out your home and destroy whatever's left of it, and you're not going to be allowed to live there whether you want to or not. So you can either sell it to us now, or we'll just declare it a flood zone and we'll demolish what's left of your home, but you're not allowed on the property because we're declaring it a flood zone. That's how you herd humanity. That's how you move people around and get them into camps, get them isolated in specific spots, and then the government seizes the land. And on top of that, which is this is pretty incredible, but this just aired on local news in Hawaii as well. FEMA's also looking for vacant lots in West Maui to build more of these. And you would say, wait a minute, wasn't that fire like a year and a half ago? Yeah, it was. So where are these people that they're looking to house? Where are they now? Are they on the streets? Are they in hotels? Or are you planning on maybe doing more destruction? Who knows? But here's FEMA looking to buy vacant lots. And if you own a lot, well, FEMA's going to be coming to your door looking to take that lot. And of course, they'll pay a little bit of money for it to lease it.
FEMA may be interested in leasing your property to help fire survivors. They're looking for property owners who don't plan to build for the next 2 or 3 years. FEMA would install 2 or more modular units on your land. Survivors will be placed in these units temporarily so that they have a place to stay while they recover and rebuild. If you're interested in leasing to FEMA, we've posted details on how to get involved on our website, hawaiinewsnow.com.
And of course, when FEMA says they're going to lease it, they're telling you flat out, because you should be using common sense logic, that they're going to be using your tax money to lease land from other civilians so that they can house people who were thrown out of their homes or evicted from their homes because of these natural disasters that are not so natural at all. And this is what your tax money goes towards. The FEMA flood buyout cost share, federal government 75%, that's your tax money. 25% alternative federal agencies, state or local government, or the homeowner. That's your tax money. And you could bet your bottom dollar that the people who own land there, if they say, look, I'm not planning on building a house here for 5 years. I bought land here a while ago, but it's my land. If they don't agree to allow the quote unquote temporary housing, you could bet your bottom dollar that the government will seize their land and say, look, we're going to give you money for your land, whether you like it or not. We're taking it. We'll give you 10 cents on the dollar for it. You don't have a say in any of this. You have to do the right thing and give us your land. And of course, we'll give you the land back after, temporary housing is over. But then they realize, wait a minute, temporary housing is really permanent housing. And the longer you're there, the more situated you get, the more you start to realize, wait a minute, this is permanent. But hey, it's permanent. I have free FEMA housing, right? Well, yeah, as long as you follow all of the protocols, of course. Now we have hate speech laws. We have, we have digital IDs required. We're going to monitor what you look at on the internet. We're going to monitor what you do at night because you're living in a home that's made entirely of glass. So welcome to hell, right? And again, as I said earlier, I'm laughing because it's not funny, of course. This is the future for all of us. So this is what they have planned for all of us with weaponized weather. We don't know where other than the fact that, we could assume the coasts are going to be underwater, and we can assume they're just going to move us more and more closer together. But I mean, this is the plan for all of us. There's nothing funny about it. What's funny is just how ridiculous the entire thing looks. How ridiculous these homes look, right? How ridiculous FEMA is now where they're painting the homes. So what do you think they're painting the homes for? Ooh, you want the red one? Do you want the red cell or do you want the green cell? Ooh, I love pink. Is there a pink one? Because they know that the sheeple are so dumbed down that, hey, it's like buying your enslavement phone, right? You could have a white one, a black one, or a rose gold one. Ooh, I'll take the rose gold, right? So this is how they're marketing to people, right? It doesn't look as dystopian when they start painting them. It doesn't look as dystopian when they start telling you about how this is just temporary, right? Anyone that says that this is dystopian hell because we're going to start making you stay here, live here permanently, because you're going to have no choice. Where are these people going to go? What are they going to do? They're going to leave the whole island altogether because that's what they want anyway, so then leave the whole island altogether. Otherwise, you could stay in our little FEMA prison. So it only took a year and a half, but the first modular homes are ready. FEMA decided to slap some paint on it so it doesn't look as hellish as people like us claim it to be, but they're all built pretty much the same. One might have an extra bedroom than the other one, all lined up directly next to each other. You got about 10 feet apart. You got FEMA patrolling the area. I've shown in the past, like in these FEMA communities, they have roads inside of the community, and they name them all types of dystopian things like Paradise, like Paradise Lane, Beautiful Flower Road, right? I mean, it's total dystopia. Then it shows you, like, this is deep-rooted mind control where these people are going to be living, some people are going to be living like this, and they're going to think it's wonderful. They're going to be like, this is great, it's nicer than my old home. Until they realize that they're actually living in a prison cell. Some people won't even realize that as this is all going down. With the digital ID, with the carbon footprint, they're going to literally convince these people that they're doing the right thing by enslaving themselves, and they're going to be smiling while the government punches them in the nuts. And that's the way that that's the way that we're headed here. So FEMA, again, is no one's friend. That has been made clear over time and time again over the last, I don't know how many years, but specifically in 2024, more people are seeing it. And when they put those little videos out, the montages, they work on the sheeple. Because like I've said, it's like the pharmaceutical ads, right? They put a background song behind it and they talk about, hey, if you take this pill so you can get a boner, hey, you might get Alzheimer's, dementia, cancer, you may have sudden stroke. And they list about 75 side effects from taking this pill. All where they show an old man and a woman running on the beach, smiling, holding hands, kissing each other, kites flying in the background, children running, dogs leaping, cats meowing, and everything's great, right? Because you forgot to listen to the symptoms that they were reading to you while they were telling you how wonderful it all is by showing you beautiful imagery and playing classical music in the background. That's exactly what FEMA's doing. I mean, this is how they get the sheeple. It's as easy as that. So the poor people in Lahaina who have gone through enough are obviously just the beginning of what they have planned for all of us, but FEMA just has the gall to come out and not just, try to make us smile and say this is great as if we're all so stupid to think that the government didn't do this in the first place and we should be thankful that FEMA rolled in, but they even slapped a coat of paint on the FEMA houses to give us a little upgrade in 2024 so it doesn't look as dystopian. But to me, it looks even more dystopian than ever before. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.